Welcome back. I've got some notes today for everybody about a chapter in the book that I'm working on called Antisocial Media. This chapter is about absent family, and there's 2 points in this chapter that I'm going to just cover some bullet points in this video. And the first one is tech jobs and broken families. And so I have some inside baseball on this because my mother was the director of human resources for Apple Computer when I was growing up in Northern California. We lived in Cupertino, and the headquarters for Apple was there in Cupertino. My father was a preacher at a Christian church, and my mom was the HR lady for Apple when it was such a small company that they only had one HR lady. I have no idea how big their HR department is now. It's probably way too big for their own good. But the woman who is my mother was the foundational person in that organization, in that department. And so I can give you all kinds of stories and interesting information about that and about correlations between that type of profession and having a broken family. So my parents got divorced when I was like 15, 16. And my father, it's as rare as it is for a man to initiate divorce in North America. My father's the one who initiated the divorce. And later on in life, when I approached my mother about this, and I was like, well, what the, what was going on with this shit? She's just like real mad at him for bailing on her. And if you go down the logical thought process of how relationships work and how men will pursue women for sexual opportunity and potentially, reproducing children, it's insane to think that it's then a man's responsibility to continue to maintain that relationship long term. Obviously, it takes two people. It takes two to tango. Both people have to be trying to continue to maintain the relationship. But if the woman decides that she's going to put her career first and that they're going to be like two career people and she's not putting the family and wife duties first and that kind of thing, then it ain't going to work. It ain't going to pan out. And I don't care if you're a Christian, if you're a preacher at a church or not. There's plenty of preachers at churches that are getting divorced and doing doing many things that are even worse than that. So having that as an occupation doesn't insulate you from actually being a human being. And what you may have learned by now, if you've uncovered my videos, you've probably seen a lot of other videos and podcasts about relationships and marriage and divorce and the intersexual dynamics between men and women. And you'll probably have picked up on the idea that it's men who give out relationships, it's women who give out sex. And I don't see any holes in that argument. So if you're a woman, you want to be primarily concerned with maintaining your position in your relationship. As if you're a wife, you want to maintain that, right? And if you fail to maintain that, then I don't know that you can really just like point fingers and blame a man for leaving you. Like, it's up to you. And my mother will never see this. And it would be beneficial to her if she did, probably, but it's really one of those things where I don't know that she or other women like her would even ever be interested in taking the kind of personal accountability required to take a good, hard, realistic look at their life and realize that these things were their decision for the most part. So if there's a guy, for you ladies out there, if there's a guy who chooses you as his wife and you say yes to this proposal, it's then your responsibility to maintain your status as the wife. Okay? If you disrespect that position and choose to pursue a career as the human resources director for Apple Computer instead of pursuing a career as the wife to your husband, then you get what you pay for. Okay? So the most efficient, the most fruitful, the most productive thing that you can possibly do is go to the gym all the fucking time and continue to be as sexually attractive as humanly possible. Provide this man with as much connection as possible in the form of children and sexual opportunity. Okay? If you choose to make it more complicated than that, then you're a fool. And you can argue all day long about career and about if I'm a fool or not, or intelligence or experience or whatever it might be. If you are not going to prioritize your status as a wife, then you will not continue to be a wife. So you need to decide if you want to be a wife or not. And if you do, then you have to perform the behaviors that will allow you to continue your status as a wife. And if you want to try to change reality, instead of changing yourself to operate successfully within reality, then don't go around calling yourself a Christian and don't go around pointing fingers at other people and saying it's their fault that you got divorced. Be very aware that it's up to you to maintain your status as a wife. Okay, that being said, there's another person in my family that's a high-level executive at Meta. And this guy has a broken family. His immediate family hasn't been broken up, but the marriage between his mother and father is a complete disgrace. His father is a multimillionaire, and his mother hates his father, disrespects his father, and is a complete bitch to everybody all the time. It's one of these reality checks where, like, me having very close proximity to that experience has actually given me pause and been very interesting in such a way that I can observe this dynamic between this man and woman, and this rich man who takes good care of his family and his children and his wife and provides for them in such a way that they could never replicate on their own without him. And this woman just has contempt for him, and she's just a fucking bitch. And it's completely ridiculous. And then his son, he has one son and one daughter. Right? I married his daughter for a very short amount of time before she decided that she couldn't handle the downgrade in lifestyle and decided to leave me and take our child and move thousands of miles away. That's a whole nother issue. But it's her older brother, who I'm speaking of here, who's a high-level exec at Meta in California. And although his mother and father are still married, I would consider that a completely broken marriage. And in addition to that, the woman that he married has estranged herself from her parents for various reasons. That relationship is so dysfunctional that his children, he has a son and a daughter, they're very beautiful children, very smart, well adjusted, and they're great kids. But they now, instead of having two sets of grandparents, one from their father and one from their mother, they have one set of grandparents, which is their father's parents. Their mother's parents has been completely estranged from the family because they have so much drama and bullshit. So I have a very interesting inside angle when it comes to executives at big tech companies and how they have broken families. I have two people in my immediate family that are high-level execs or have been high-level execs at tech companies that have disjointed and broken immediate families. So that's a 100% ratio. Although we're not working with the law of large numbers here, like an insurance company would when they're doing underwriting. We're only working with two examples, but in my personal life, the two examples that I can personally testify to both have, like I explained, broken families. So make of that information whatever you will. I would say that there is a correlation there, and these should not be overlooked and dismissed. Okay? The second thing that I want to bring to everyone's attention today is just some notes on birth control. I'm going to write some details about this in my book as well, but birth control is a very, very poisonous experience for women and a very destructive experience for men in terms of being able to achieve a successful relationship with a woman and then propagate children and then be able to maintain relationships with the woman and with the children. And if you have any kind of conspiratorial mind, then you may kind of be able to read between the lines here and see that the invention of birth control was very deliberate. And I've explained this example before, and I'll explain it again. People get what they pay for, and people don't go out and pay for things that they don't want. Okay, so like if you went to the grocery store to buy some toothpaste, and you went down the aisle and found the toothpaste that you wanted, and picked it up and brought it up to the checkout counter, and you go hand the lady your toothpaste, and she rings it up and then hands you back some like cucumbers and hummus, you'd be like, what the fuck is this? I'm buying toothpaste. Why'd you take my toothpaste and hand me back this bullshit that I don't want? And it would be just kind of a silly and ridiculous situation that you have on your hands there. So if you would object to something as simple as that type of bait and switch, it should be fairly easy for you to imagine that a large corporation or a non-governmental organization or a huge pharmaceutical company or a group of investors and scientists and various other individuals would behave very similarly, if not exactly the same way, when they are performing the act of inventing birth control. So it's very silly to think like, well, they invented birth control and gave it out to women indiscriminately, and then just accidentally X, Y, and Z happened after that. It's much more intelligent and appropriate to think that you can look at what happened after the birth control pill was given out to everybody, and then assume that those results were the intended results from the very beginning. You see? So you work backwards. So if the end result of birth control being introduced, there's just a few points here that I'll cover with you. The end result has been very well documented, and it goes a little something like this. Okay, so the actual very literal description of what's happening here is these women are invading their own bloodstream with poisonous chemicals that stops their reproductive cycle. Okay? It kills off a varying number of their hormones and poisons them slowly. Right? You can take too many birth control pills and die from that. You can take just a little bit of it at a time and just kill off your reproductive cycle, but not actually kill your entire body. A couple key points here is absent of a woman's ovulation. Weaker males are more likely to acquire relationships with women, effectively ending the genetics of dominant males. And this is the opposite of natural selection. Natural selection, for however many thousands of years you believe that we've been in existence, natural selection has been the opposite of that. It's been that the strongest males would be able to reproduce with women, and the documentation of that is pretty universal, that only 40% of men in the history of the world have actually reproduced with women. So women don't just like fuck everybody and reproduce children with everybody. They actually don't really do that at all. They really have a very well documented habit of looking down their nose at most men and deciding that most of us don't qualify to have our genetics reproduced in the world. Now, I've had multiple women decide that I qualified to have my genetics reproduced in the world. So I am speaking from a position of experience. I've had one chick have my baby, wouldn't really even speak to me. After she got pregnant, basically ghosted me, and then I ran into her later on at college, and she was like, "Oh, look, see, I'm super fucking pregnant. I'm about to pop." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool." And I'm like, it didn't even click to me that was my baby until later on, and I was like having nightmares about this Filipino chick having my child, and I was like, "Oh shit. Was that it? That was it. There wasn't like any exchanging of phone numbers or any like, hey, like this is yours." It was just like, "Oh yeah, I'm pregnant," and this chick was a stripper who came home with me and whatnot, right? So I just figured she was banging multiple people, and probably she was, and maybe that's not even my baby, but I also believe that there was a connected reason there why I was having nightmares about that later on in life. This was like 5, 6, 7 years later on down the road when I actually realized, holy shit, I think that chick that I ran into at college that was the stripper was pregnant from me, and I did the best I could to kind of replay the timeline in my head, and the way that I was able to replay it, it appears to me that unless she was sleeping with other multiple dudes at that same time frame, which is definitely possible, if not probable, there's a really good chance that that's my baby. Anyway, long story short, there's that one. There's another one that got an abortion. There's another one that got an abortion. There's another one that had a miscarriage. There's my first ex-wife that actually had my daughter, who's now like 24. And then there's my second ex-wife who went and actually had my daughter. And she's basically like a DNA thief. She just like pretended that she wanted to be this trad wife type of deal for me because she knew that's what I was looking for. And then as soon as she was pregnant, she was like trying to throw me out of the house and acting all crazy and shit like that. Anyway, long story short, I have 2 children from 2 different women. But I've had 2 other women decide that they wanted to get pregnant by me and then freaked out and murdered the children, and then one other one that had a miscarriage. So I have no shortage of women that have been very comfortable with having my child in the moment, right? So I'm speaking to you from that category of that 40% of men that have actually been able to reproduce in the world. All that to say, when women are on birth control, it doesn't really work that way. They want these men that are more submissive, more docile, more feminine, weaker, not just in behavior and attitude, but also in physical features. And so when you put all these women on birth control all over the world, it really throws a monkey wrench into the gears of natural selection. Because most of the men that really would normally have been reproducing aren't. And women are the ones that make that decision, not men. Men are just hoping to be selected and doing the spray and pray kind of strategy. And women, for the most part, are the ones that are responsible for who actually produces their genetics into the next generation or not. Okay, so the conclusion there is pretty obvious. So women are effectively ending the genetics of dominant males. And it's not like they don't have to go through this logical decision-making process to make this happen. It just is one of the effects that happens. And so you would be foolish to think that that's an accident. It's interesting that statistically, from what I've been able to research on the internet, very, very high intelligence women don't generally take birth control. And very, very high intelligent men don't really support birth control. It seems to be kind of a midwit and lower kind of thing. But then it's like a bell curve, but it's like a reverse bell curve, because like the very stupid don't participate in birth control and the very smart don't participate in birth control, but the middle does. So it's almost like eliminating the middle class. Do with that information what you will. And it's very specific who is being targeted by that. Anyway, there was a great study that I read from the UCLA Department of Psychiatry and Biobehavioral Sciences Laboratory for Stress Assessment and Research, published in the journal called Brain, Behavior, and Immunity. And what they concluded was that women that take the birth control pill have an increased risk for chronic elevated inflammation leading to cancer, cardiovascular disease, autoimmune disorders, and mood disorders, including depression. Mic drop. So, what are we doing here? You got chicks taking pills that are making them, basically it makes them sick and crazy. This is how you know God's a comedian. Because this shit's hilarious. Damn, with this lighting, you can really see all my facial scars. Brutal. I guess that's why people like plastic surgery. I'm getting my teeth replaced too very soon. I'm looking forward to that. So yeah, taking birth control pills, ladies, it just makes you sick and crazy. It's the jury is still out on whether it makes you stupider or not, but I would say, based on all the evidence I'm looking at, it's making you dumb, it's making you sick, and it's making you crazy. So probably it's a safe bet at this point in time to just stop taking birth control pills. Don't get the IUD. If you're going to fuck somebody, just choose good, strong men to fuck. Stop fucking losers. And if you really want to change the world, shout out to Psych Dr. Orion Teraband. If you really, ladies, if you really want to change the world, start fucking dudes that are like strong, powerful, masculine dudes that are honest, that'll actually tell you to your face what the truth is. Fuck those guys. Don't fuck weak losers that lie all the time. I mean, this is just like the most basic type of shit. But you probably have a weak father. You probably have a weak brother. You probably have dated nothing but weak losers your whole life. And so no one's going to actually tell you this shit. But if they do, bravo. Good for them. And you probably won't fuck them if they do, but you should. That's about all I got for you this afternoon. So yeah, to summarize all that, for the most part, people, in my experience, people that are working in high-level executive positions at tech companies, for the most part, have really fucked up relationships with their family. And so I'll get into that a little more in the future. And then in terms of birth control, for you ladies out there that are taking birth control, it's making you sick and it's making you crazy. And that makes you a less attractive prospect to the type of men that you actually want to be with. And it actually makes the men that you actually want to be with less attractive in your eyes. They are less attractive to you, in addition to you being less attractive to them. So stop taking birth control. That shit's bad for you. And then I don't really have a 100% solution for the tech company broken family correlation. I think I need to look into that a little bit more, but probably if you're going to be into that, it's beneficial to like learn all the coding required to like make your own, you know, gadgets and websites and tricky little things that are going to be entertaining for people and useful. And then do some of that on your own instead of working at one of these tech companies, because it seems to me that the experience of being involved in one of those organizations at a high level is bad for your ability to pair bond with your family. It is what it is. All we do is win. Everybody stay out of trouble. Keep your heads up. Run the race in such a way that you may win the race, if you know what I'm saying. Everybody have a great day.